I'd consider this one garbage. I would not install this. Hey folks, welcome back to the garage. Next up on this 5.9 is the camshaft. Camshafts for these 5.9 Magnums tend to be pretty spendy, and since I'm not really building anything for racing or anything, I'm just going to look at reusing one of the camshafts that I have. The first step before we inspect it is we need to make sure that all of the lobes are clean while we're cleaning them. We'll visibly look at them. So just take a look at the lobes. Anything that looks dull or rough or obviously worn will be a problem, and that means that the camshaft is not going to be usable. So we're just going to go down, clean up everything. Just going to use a bit of green Scotch-Brite, a rag, maybe a little bit of solvent like brake cleaner, and get all of this cleaned up. Once we get it all cleaned up and everything looks good, then we'll take either a micrometer or a set of calipers, and we'll measure all of the lobes just to make sure they all seem to be about the same. So let's get started. So on visual inspection, note the finish on this lobe. Look at that spot right there. And then it continues around here. It's really pitted in there. That does not look good at all. I would not install this in anything. That's just I'm afraid that would just eat the roller on the lifter. So that's the kind of thing you're looking for. Fortunately, I've got 2 donor blocks, so I have 2 camshafts. This one looks much better. Once I've gone over the lobes with Scotch-Brite, I like to clean them up. WD-40 actually works pretty well for this. Just getting rid of that last bit of varnish and any kind of dirt that's on them. Alright, now that we have it all cleaned, we're going to check the lobes. Now, one way you could do it is we could check the height of every one of these lobes against what it's supposed to be. And so the lift would really be, you could measure across here, so the narrow part, that gives us the circle of the lobe, and then measure the height, and the difference between that circle and the height is the total lift of that lobe. But really, I'm not overly concerned about what the actual lift is. I'm just looking for wear. So I just want to make sure that they're all about the same. So we can take a micrometer or a set of calipers. A mic is a little bit more accurate for getting a square on something round like this. Then we could get in here, get it just where it clears, and then I'm going to lock the micrometer. Now we know that we've got intakes and exhausts, and they usually have a different lift. So really it's every other one, intake, exhaust, and in fact it doesn't matter which is which. We don't care at this point. We just know that this one, we're nice and snug here. We skip one and we check the next one. And it should be also nice and snug. There's no play here at all. And then I can go down, check the next set. We check every other one all the way down, then we come back and reset our micrometer for the other side. Whether it's exhaust or intake, actually I don't even know, and again it doesn't matter. What we're looking for is a lobe that, if it's nice and tight here, then I move to the next one and it rattles around, we know that it is worn. We could use the micrometer and figure out how much it's worn, but if it's more than, a few thousandths, really you've got a worn lobe, and again the camshaft would be garbage at that point. So I'm just going to go down, measure all these, and I'll come back and measure the other set, and we'll see if we're good. Okay, now we come back, and on this one, it's actually a little bit floppy, so I'll adjust it. they're all very tight on the micrometer. So this camshaft is good to go. Not going to do any other measurement, we're just going to put it in. Installing the camshaft is really straightforward. We just want to lube it up really well. Then we're going to slide it in through the front. Now you have to be very careful that you don't gall any of the bearings all the way down, but as long as you're careful and run it straight on through, you should be fine. To make things easy, I like to take a bolt and screw it into the end of the camshaft. This just gives me a nice handle that I can grab onto as I steer it in. Okay, so I'm going to rest it here. You can do this on a bench, whatever, and I'm going to lubricate all of it. You want to lubricate not just the bearing journals, which are the round ones, but you want to get all of the lobes as well. We're not going to be putting the lifters in right away, but if we lube them now, they'll be lubricated when we do. It's near impossible to lubricate them all the way around after you've got it assembled. Make sure that we also lubricate this, which is our distributor drive. Again, I'm going to use Lubriplate assembly grease. The reason I like the grease instead of something a little bit runnier is if you're going to have the engine sitting for any length of time, something that's runnier like an oil is going to, by gravity, pull down and come out of the journals. This grease stays in place, so even if you don't start the engine for a few months, you're fine. Alright, now that we're fully lubricated, we're going to slowly slide it in here. You can watch through the top here, through the lifter valve. You can watch what it's doing. If you need to give it a guiding hand, you can put your fingers in there. I like to rest the end journal on one of the bearings when I need to shift my fingers. As you get further in, it's a little harder because you got less leverage, so using your fingers down here at the end helps. Make sure we get that last one aligned and in. And we put, now the camshaft is in. We just need to put the locking plate on the front. Now we can take out this bolt we were using for a handle. Go ahead and rotate it at this point, make sure that those bearings themselves are nice and lubricated. Alright, next we're going to put in the camshaft retainer plate. Before we do that, we want to lubricate the face here of this cam. This retainer plate, this goes toward the cam. There's a little passage here for oil, so it comes in like this. This is a little oil drip thing that lubricates the timing set. That's held on with this bolt. The torque spec on these is 210 inch-pounds. There's nothing really putting a lot of force on these. It's going to be, the point is that I don't think they're critical like a head bolt or anything like that. So I'm just going to tighten them down so that they're tight with a 1/2 inch wrench. And there we go. The cam is now installed. We have to put on the timing set next. The Magnum engines were all fuel injected, so they did not have an eccentric to drive the fuel pump. So that's something we can just take off of another LA motor we'll put on here, because we're going to put the LA timing cover and everything on this as well. That's it for today. Thanks for watching.